Hello, Leo. Welcome or welcome back to my Body and Heart Tower Therapy. I'm here to do the reading for March 2020. A little bit late, I know. Yes, but yeah, the energy is here, it's present with us. Let's see what's going on for you, Leo. I hope you're well. There's a lot of major transits going on. Anyway, this is the general reading for Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising signs. If it resonates, it resonates, and if it doesn't, then it's just not your reading. So yes, we're gonna have a major transit, 22nd of March, coming soon. Saturn is moving into Aquarius, and that's going to change a lot the energy around Saturn, which is all about rules and discipline and time. Capricorn, where Saturn had been for the past, I think, 2 years, is all about creating those structures. Aquarius is more about destroying them, really, with Uranus as well as the co-ruler. So, yeah, let's see how that plays out for you. Also, I think we have Mercury still retrograde, but it moved from Pisces into Aquarius yesterday. And we're going to have a full moon in Virgo on the 9th. So yeah, check in with that, see how it works for you. Now let's just go back into the tarot. This whole thing with Saturn in Aquarius, I think it's gonna, okay, you have a card, Eight of Swords, as your current energy. Yeah, this whole Saturn in Aquarius may have a very interesting flavor for you, since Aquarius is your opposite sign. And you have the Wheel of Fortune as your challenge. There we go. Let's see, what's your focus, my dear? Okay, got a lot of focus on. The Hangman, Queen of Pentacles, and the Ten of Swords as your focus. And Strength, there it is. Here's your card. I'm glad to see it here. Hope you can see all this. Feel a bit far. Okay, and let's see what's your advice. The Chariot and future energy. Ten of Cups. Yay! All right, Five of Swords as the underlying energy, kind of what you're working with this month. And yeah, with this Five of Swords and the Eight of Swords in your current energy, it's not easy, let's put it this way. You may feel triggered a lot, and you may feel very intense about many things. Though this is not so much about feeling, it's much more about thinking. You see, as you see, they're both swords. It's about the mind. Anyway, let me pour out the clarifiers before we go deeper into this. All right, let's see, where are these cards here? Four of Swords of the Eight of Swords as your current energy. Interesting way they fold this time. Queen of Swords with the Wheel of Fortune as your challenge. Seven of Cups with all that pile over there as your focus. Four of Pentacles with the Chariot as your advice. And the Two of Wands with Ten of Cups as your future energy. And bottom of the deck you have the Eight of Pentacles with the Five of Swords. Interesting. So Five of Swords is, the mind starting to grow a little bit from this Four of Swords, which is a break, a moment where we put our foundations. So you may have found something that works for you, so that you cope with I don't know, life, yourself, triggers, things like that. But you may be able to do that only in a very quiet environment where you have a lot of time and a lot of space. Now with the Five of Swords, it's growing a little bit more than that, to get a little bit outside of yourself and start observing that, I don't know, like, everything from 1 to 7 of Swords, it talks about the development of the egoic mind. And it's growing up until 4. It just creates a foundation and some type of identity. And from 5 up, it grows beyond just the self and starts kind of incorporating extension of the self, which means family or close friends or things like that. And it needs to keep growing up until it stops identifying with just the self and the close ones, and comes into service, into that type of unconditional love for all that is, and all everyone, everything. And that's kind of a challenge for the mind. I mean, yes, maybe with other senses we can get there sometimes. For example, with our emotional self or with our spiritual self. But with the body mind, it's much harder. Because it's really hard to... These are not things made to be conceptualized. Really, they're much more about being felt. So the mind doesn't feel great when these things start happening. So it may feel a little bit insecure. You go out there, you feel a little bit of stability as you go inside, and you go within, and you feel like, okay, I got this sorted. I understand what this is all about. And then you go out there and you get triggered again. And you get really, really triggered, and you just stop. And Leo, no offense, but it can be very fiery. It can be very it can come out quite strong, very intense. It's all with all the fire signs. It's very normal. This is an opportunity to see where you need to go back and take a rest in there, and what you're really working with. When you see yourself triggered in this way, when you see yourself that you the side of you that needs power and control shows up. That side of you shows up because it feels some type of powerlessness and weakness, and it feels like it's standing up for you. And maybe you snap, and then you I don't know, you put people down around you, and then you feel sorry about that, and whatever. I don't know if you even feel sorry. Maybe you just feel like you all the time this is okay. I don't think so, though, with the Four of Swords here. But yeah, I think you're really working with this, and it's great. It's great that I think you're willing to look into this, and to first step for everything is acceptance that this happens. So when the Five of Swords and energy shows up, and you feel like you start roasting other people around you, or even yourself, I mean, like, it goes either in or out, but it goes most of the time, where do you feel like this energy of conflict and having to have the last word, having to be right, having to slap the other person somehow? When are you turning to yourself? That's your opportunity to take that part of you and have, like, a loving, caring conversation, and hold space for it. Recognize it's there. What do I feel right now? Anger. Okay. What's anger? Where is that coming from? What am I really feeling? Oh, maybe I'm feeling like I don't matter, or people don't listen to me, or I don't know, offended in some way. Why am I feeling offended? Going like a few layers deeper, because you have this Eight of Pentacles here that seems to give you that tenacity and patience to be able to do that. And that can give you information also about people in your life, right? What are their triggers? What are your triggers? How do people in your life react to your triggers? And I mean, we need to feel safe to be able to snap every once in a while, you know. If I snap once and my I don't know, my partner for 3 years that never saw me snapping because I've been always under self-control, whatever. It's just an example. It's not, doesn't necessarily mean a real situation. And if I snap once and I just raise my voice and I tell my emotions, don't wait for 3 years, please. And the other person just leaves and doesn't want to hold space for that, and that's not okay either, you know. And that happens as we grow up. As we grow up, for example, as kids, between the age of 2.5 and 3, 4, kids start really testing parents' boundaries. They have this emotional outbursts, and they need to feel safe. They need to be held in those periods. If whenever they express their emotions, and at that time they have no emotional regulation. I mean, like, they co-regulate with a parent. That's the point, or with the caretaker. So they take this sword and they need to try it out, and it's a way like, okay, you say you love me, but if I do this, do you still love me? That kind of stuff. And you know, Leo energy talks a lot about the child, the inner child, and children in general. I think that your inner child comes up and tries those swords quite a lot these days. And it may not have been just these days, may have been for a long time. I don't know. You know that. The point is that now you can work with it. So this is what this month is about. Whenever you see the trigger, go back and feel it. Feel what's under it. Investigate a little bit. And do the work. Breathe. Go for a walk. Talk it out. This kind of stuff. Whatever works for you. There are many options for many people. And some people react better to some tools. Some people react better to others. Now, let's see what's going on now. As I was saying, like, this whole 4, 5 of swords, 4 of swords is that moment where you have some type of like stability, like stability of the mind. 8 of swords is also stability. It's a growth, but it's at the higher level. And that's great generally, only that it doesn't feel that great because the mind doesn't really know how to cope with this. I'm like, okay, here I am, I'm having all this serious adult life, adulting, and here I am working with my shit. But it knows that it builds up towards the end of a way of being. So it feels constricted. It feels it start like acting out. Your mind, your ego, your perception of yourself and who you think you are right now, that's constantly changing. We're just getting stuck into trying to define the world in one way or another because we need to make sense of our reality. And yeah, well, we kind of have to do it. You know, we have a life happens. Maybe you have a family that need to take care of. Maybe you have I know, need to pay your bills. You know, life happens. Obviously, we need to make sense of our reality. We can't constantly question each and every little thing that happens into our life. And also, we cannot really philosophize constantly and so on and so on. It is important, though, to not fall into the trap of the mind right now. The mind has resistance to this type of growth, to spiritual growth especially. Whenever we're going out of the comfort zone, the mind is going to keep us small, keep us trapped, keep us like, okay, that's not possible. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, yeah, you have all these great accomplishments, and yet you are just a helpless little lady here, or whatever. You need to protect yourself. You need to go out there and fight, whatever. So you can get trapped in either this fighty mode, either in trapped in your mind somehow, overthinking and feeling powerless. Thank God this Four of Swords is here, because that's just going to take you back to the break point, to the taking the deep breath, being like really, let's sit with this. Let's see what's going on. What is going on in here? What is my mind telling me? And this step is necessary in the evolution of consciousness, because you see this lady is dressed in red in here. And red is in tarot, it's about spirituality, but it's also about awareness, right? So basically she's blindfolded. Her mind is not going to help her here. Her mind is like, okay, yeah, I don't know what's going on. But her body holds the key into setting herself free here. There's no one here. There's no one here but herself alone, left out in the cold, yeah? And if she, obviously she's frozen, she's terrified, but she can easily set herself free if she listens. Okay, there's nobody around me. There's no voices. There's nothing. If she feels into the ground, okay, it feels a little bit yeah, it doesn't feel the safest place to just like go blindfold, so she really needs to land into her body. She really needs to feel through. If she moves around and she falls, she can cut herself in one of these thoughts. But if she's careful and she really feels through, she can feel her way around and set herself free. Understand the amount of pressure, where to step, and take one of these swords and set herself free. This is the imagery speaking. But the number 8 is really a great place in evolution and of consciousness and growth, because this will prove to your mind that there is more to it than the mind. And we go through cycles. Like, remember last time where you felt like this, or where you thought of yourself in these terms, let's put it this way, with all this swords energy here, and how you grew out of there. You are your own teacher. You know exactly what you need, actually. Sometimes we may not be able to see it and feel it. Feel into your body. Feel exactly what happens in there. You may feel bloated. You may feel very tired. You may feel, what do you feel? Go into there. Go into the emotional body as well. Go everywhere. We're going there. And yeah, you may feel all like this, and because there's change happening. There's a lot of change happening. And you seem to find that very challenging right now. Well, change is challenging for many of us. There's a lot of people out there that say, oh my God, I'm looking for change. Change is fantastic. But when change really happens, they don't feel all that fantastic, because we lose our crutches. We lose what we, the familiar. And sometimes even when change is very much needed and we consciously look for it, when it really happens, we're not so keen with it. It's really hard to do conscious change. And when change happens outside of ourselves, say if our environment pushes us to change certain things in ourselves or in our daily routines or things like that, like, I don't know, the way you live or anything, may perceive it as the end of the world. And in a way it is, because it's the end of that world, the end of the way we perceived ourselves up until that moment, right? That's why I'm saying also here that the mind foresees a little bit the end of self, But it's not really the death of self, and it's not really the death of the ego. The ego just expands and grows into something else, but it doesn't want that, right? And it's not about making an enemy of the ego or of the mind. That's not at all how it works. I know a lot of spiritual teachers that constantly say, okay, the ego's trying to do this to you, the ego's tricking you, the ego's doing that. No, the ego is your little child which needs attention and love. And yes, he might have grown to create all kinds of strategies to get what it wants, but it still is just a protective layer for you. Do not make an enemy of your ego. Honor your ego. Actually, I remember I was in a mindfulness center in a retreat somewhere in Thailand, and there was this lovely. I consider her a teacher. She wasn't necessarily teaching meditation, but she was a psychologist. She was a really good psychologist, and what she was offering beyond just the psychology sessions, there was this TRE, which means the tension and trauma release exercises. And for me, it was my first experience with mindfulness, with meditation, with all that. I had like huge resistance to anything that sounded remotely religious. So when I was hearing people talking about the Buddha, I would just get angry. But this lady knew how to put it all the time. And yeah, of course, like I was growing sensitive, more open towards the spiritual discussions as well. But this lady really knew how to communicate. Okay, like TRE, tension trauma release exercises, you do some exercises, and she was always saying like, honor your ego. Your ego is going to protest at some point. It doesn't feel familiar. It feels strange. Honor that. Don't push yourself beyond your ego's limits. And I think that's one of the wisest thing I've learned in this whole spiritual community and personal growth type of work. Yes, there's a lot of amazing teachings out there, but if they are pushy, if they are dismissive of any part of ourselves, then for my understanding of the universe and of the world, that doesn't really work. Or it works, but it's just going to push into some directions that we're going to have to make up for. Because there's also that thing that we can create a spiritual pride, the spiritual ego, when the ego starts identifying with the spiritual self. And that's very dangerous. And that can happen when the ego is just being submersed, being pushed away, and not honoring when I'm feeling angry, not noticing when I'm feeling I want to put some people down, or I see it and I'm like, I don't like this, I don't want to be like this, I'm a spiritual being, all love and light. And I just deny this part of myself, but I need to honor it. I need to honor my ego. I need to honor when I feel trapped, I need to honor everything. It doesn't mean that I need to believe that. I'm more like managing my own ego and managing my fear and managing all that. I'm honoring this, like, okay, yes, I know that I'm doing, I don't know, this breath work or this somatic practice, and I know that I may be going into a place of trauma, let's say, or something that's sensitive for you. Doesn't matter what it is. It matters that we will have them, whether we realize it or not. Some of us more obvious than others, but we will have them, places within ourselves that we don't want to go. And if I just push myself to go beyond that level of like the threshold of my comfort zone, I may be re-traumatizing myself. And that's truly important, because a lot of people go through this like incredibly bold healing sessions, and I've done some. I understand the beauty in it. I understand when there's an actual breakthrough through, I don't know, collective breath work or all kinds of stuff where people end up like yelling and screaming and shaking and so on. It can be very liberating, but there are a few people out there that out in those groups, and I've noticed some, and I've actually been in one of those somewhat positions myself at this point, where I didn't know when to stop. And I see other people as well, they just go beyond that limit, that threshold that the ego puts sometimes, and it's just pushing it, and we end up like constantly re-traumatizing, and it's not a healing session anymore, it becomes something else. It's re-traumatization. Look into that. There's a lot of like trauma-informed information coming out there. Trauma-informed information. There's a lot of information about how to work with trauma recently, and I'm actually happy to see that. But at the same time, it's also kind of being popularized, and whenever something is popularized, it can lose a lot of its value somehow, because it's taken in jest or a little bit too lightly. Anyhow, this whole conversation started about, you know, how you feel like there's all this change going on, and there's fear around change, and the Queen of Swords is like maybe you start becoming like really, really cold and stern in this situation. You know, the Queen of Swords is one of those people that has been through a lot, and she tends to cut everything short before it even happens. And to a certain degree, that's great. She knows those boundaries. She understands what her boundaries are. She can, like, you know, cut people off immediately. She's not going to take any bullshit. That's fantastic. But at the same time, this is still your challenge position. So the challenge you may be having here is that you may be cutting things off too early. You may come up into this feisty type of energy, and you may just become really, really cold. I feel like there's clarity coming through. There's opportunity for lots of clarity if you allow this to just happen. Allow it as it is. Do not fight it. Do not resist it. Anyway, let's see what your focus and advice before I'm starting offering advice here from my own self. But yeah, this is oh yeah, I forgot about this one here. That's why 5, okay, the 4, the 5, the 8, and 10. That's the end that was perceiving. I think I saw it, but I forgot about it. And that's why the fear of change, because the mind always see every end as a dramatic end. Look at how dramatic this card is. It doesn't have to be. You have the Strength right here, and you have the Queen of Pentacles and the Hanged Man and the 7 of Cups. So yes, you are going through this process, and it will be very helpful for you to allow this 10 of Swords, allow this whatever you perceive as something you identify yourself with strongly, and you may not identify with it anymore. You may feel like really, really like something's losing. You lost something. So we can sometimes build these ideas about how things should be, or about who we are, or about who our partners are, or how our relationships are, or I don't know, identity around the amount of money we have, or the amount of something that we makes us somehow special. The mind wants us to be special. The heart doesn't. We are unique anyway. We don't need to be special. We don't need to be better than somebody else, or worse than anyone else. And yeah, this 10 of Swords is happening anyway, like it or not. Some part of you that you identified with is no longer serving you, and you're letting it go. You see, there's a new dawn coming in, a new sunrise. And you have the Strength right here. The Strength is telling you that you've got this. Tame your impulses. Strength is also another 8. The strength is also really connected with family. The strength card, there are 3 8s in your reading. That's really good, actually, with the 3 8s. It's a moment of creating some really good stability. Solidifying your own strength in your path. Working with our little inner bully is not easy. And we get more and more anxious and more stressed out when we foresee the end of something that we thought was us. That wasn't you, baby. Don't worry. That wasn't you. And with the Queen of Pentacles, you can sit with it and nurture it. Nurture yourself, nurture the aggressor, nurture the victim, nurture the lady that's a little bit too, protective. Nurture each and every aspect of yourself. Nurture your ego. Let your ego know it's okay, you are safe. That no matter what happens, you are okay and you're not going to turn on yourself. That's what you need to let your ego know. It's okay. No matter how bad things go, I'm still here with you. Because it feels responsible to protect you. And is terrified that, those moments where we just turn on ourselves. Oh, why did I do that? Oh my God, I'm so stupid. Oh my God, what was I expecting? Am I so naive? Or whatever, the way how we belittle ourselves sometimes. And you have an opportunity to really take a different perspective here. And I think it's going to be very helpful in the situation of the 5 of Swords that you're working with. Taking a different perspective, feel sometimes from the other person's shoes, without, not in the sense of empathy in which you think you are that person and you feel their pain and that's it. Know that you are yourself, but just look at the other person from a little bit different angle than what you used to look at. And that doesn't mean going into endless analysis of their behaviors or their childhood. It simply means trying to look at things a little bit different. Finding that nurturing space, and also at the same time feel into your body, feel into your emotional body, allow your emotions to inform you. Whenever you feel angry, it doesn't mean that you need to be aggressive, but let your anger inform you that there's something there, that your anger informs you where you feel powerless. That's exactly what anger informs you of. Your fear informs you of there was a meme that was circulating recently, and it's coming from a long who created, but never mind. Your fear informs you of what is really important to you, what you don't want to lose. It's fine. When the will and change happens, it doesn't necessarily mean that you lose what's most important to you. And if you do, you're still going to be okay. Look down inside and find what is really truly valuable for you and nurture that. And sometimes maybe just that, knowing that we are not our thoughts, we are not the personas we created in order to cope with the world, we are not our ego, we are not our emotions. We can use the emotions to inform us, we can use the mind to inform us, we can manage both. Emotional regulation, sensory regulation with the body. And also even regulation of the mind, meaning that you can start seeing the thoughts coming and going without necessarily taking them for granted. This is reality. That's what I have for your focus. Now for your advice, I don't know how I end up doing this reading so long. I seem to talk a lot. Okay, 7 of Chariot. And there's 1, 2, 7s. I think I saw another one. No. And there's a lot of growth here. Anyhow, the Chariot with the Four of Pentacles. As you advise, you are safe. You've got this. You have everything you need. And especially on the physical realm, you have everything you need. It was many years ago back in university. I couldn't really, I knew that I had to work with a lot of stuff, but I couldn't afford therapy, and I knew I was like a ticking bomb. Something is going to, like I was like really pushing myself to just function without really taking the time to cry the tears, to feel whatever needed to be felt and to process that. And I couldn't afford it financially, but also I couldn't afford it because I knew that the moment I would start therapy, that happened also many years later when I was working. I was like, if I start into therapy when I had the money, but I was like, I don't feel safe to do it. I don't feel safe, like I have the safe environment to go into therapy, because I knew that the moment I start like opening that door, all the skeletons in the closet will come out. Well, I'm not sure that's the right expression. More, all my inner demons will come out, And I was terrified of feeling everything that I suppressed all that time. And I didn't feel like I had a circle of friends that could really support me, or the network, like that type of supportive network that can have people can experience through, I don't know, meetings like AA or refuge recovery. Not that refuge recovery, for example, you don't need to be an addict to go to those type of circles, but that type of support, where people can really be there for each other and share from a place of vulnerability. I didn't have any of that. And I just knew that I have a job in an office where I just need to perform, and they don't care about my health, about my personal stuff. And the moment I stop functioning, that's the moment when I lose my job. So if I just go let myself go in there, then I won't be functioning. I can't be, caring for myself. That's the mentality I had. I had to do it eventually. I had to go there. I had to, stop everything. Luckily, I did it like from a place of the same, like what you have here. I was safe. Okay, I had like some financial like savings and stuff, and I quit my job, and I was like, okay, this is time for me. This is my what was that called? Sabbatical, yeah. And I took a sabbatical. Of course, it was a privilege to be able to take a sabbatical. It was also a little bit completely um yeah, I was brave or naive, call it whatever you want, because I didn't really have that many savings. And I didn't really have a backup plan. I just knew, okay, this needs to be addressed, whatever it's hanging in there, whatever has been holding heavy on me. And yeah, it took a while. I went deep. It was great. It was horrible. It was painful, but it was liberating, and it changed completely the course of my life and everything. I am very grateful that that happened. I think that this tells you that you have what you need in order to attend to yourself and your own healing here, or whatever form it needs to take. It doesn't need to be as dramatic as mine. Maybe I have a flair for drama. It doesn't mean quitting your job and going on tropical country and, I don't know, going to monasteries and staying there for months in order for you to go deep. Maybe you don't need that. Maybe you just need sometimes admitting to yourself that you have things you want to work with, and allowing yourself to do the steps. It may be just seeing a therapist. It may be seeing a counselor or a coach. It may be Maybe you've already done these steps. Maybe it's just about continuing the work. With all these aids here, I think you might have done all these things before. So you already have the tools here. And sometimes it's really hard, like whenever we get into life and we think we're good and we're good for a while, and then we kind of let go of our tools because we don't need them anymore, we think. Like, I don't need to meditate daily. Now I don't feel depressed anymore. Or I don't need to, whatever, journal or whatever tools you have. I don't, and then slowly we have this illusion that everything is fine. And it is fine for a while, but this point, like with this Eight of Pentacles here, this is consistency. We need to constantly work with ourselves. However that work is, like, keeping your body healthy, giving yourself food on a daily basis. Not like you ate one weekend and it was great and then you don't want to eat anymore because you're not hungry. Your hunger comes back. The same goes with mental hygiene, if you want to call it like this, or spiritual hygiene, things that need to be done in order to keep yourself attended to. Tend to yourself, so you don't look outside of yourself and feel either like other people need to take care of you. It's nice when people offer, but it doesn't mean that they are responsible for our mental health, or her emotional well-being. And also whenever we drop into that powerlessness, we might need, with this consistent work and knowing that you are safe, knowing that you have the resources, the physical set is right there for you to do the work. What that work is, again, it's up to you. It can be the meditation, it can be the counseling, it can be the exercise, it can be the however you are willing to approach what you need to approach. And look at, what are you afraid of losing? That's really important. And look at what you're identifying with. What is that gets you so triggered? Look right into the trigger. That's a very valuable information, actually, when we get triggered. We don't like it, but it's important, because that's how we find out where the wound is. All right, my dear. So future energy, have the 10 of Cups. Yay. With the 2 of Wands, which tells you also that happiness is a choice. And I don't like to say this much for a very important reason, which is I don't want to give people the idea that you're doing something wrong. Oh, if I'm unhappy, I must be doing something wrong. I'm choosing unhappiness, or guilt tripping is not the point. We can feel guilty, and there's a lot of in this positive type of culture, and especially in the spiritual world, we're like, oh my God, you have still suffering some physical illness. That means that you're not aligned. That means that you're carrying negative energy or low densities or things like this. I don't feed into that. I don't want to cultivate this. So it's very hard to convey this message, to not get to build into that direction, which I find very harmful. When I say that happiness is a choice, it's after doing some of the work. It's after, when we realize our power again, when we realize that we are more than what my mind tells me every once in a while, or my wounds, or my triggers, or my emotions. When I start like zooming back a little bit, and I'm realizing that with all these, I am still safe, I am loved, because first and foremost, I'm able to see myself with loving kindness and loving awareness, and that changes everything. That brings balance, that brings love, that brings everything that's lacking. Is when I'm able to sit with myself and give myself everything that I'm lacking in terms of, I don't know, being seen. When we're looking out there and we want to be seen or listened to, we get angry, people don't. What I really want is for myself to see myself. I'm looking for approval somehow outside of myself, or I'm looking for validation of sorts. Is nothing wrong with wanting to be seen and wanting to connect and wanting to be heard, all for communication and expression and all that. But that's not my value, does not stay in that. And that's really important to remember. I think this is what this really hints at. You have everything inside yourself. The masculine, the feminine, the inner children, this idea of happiness, and you can access it. Sometimes you may not be able to access it, definitely not when you're on the Eight of Swords energy. But with diligence and with taking the steps that you need to take and that you've been learning so far, or if you haven't learned any healthy coping mechanisms that can take you out of there, go and rescue yourself, my love. You're the only one who can. We may want to be rescued by everyone else, anyone else, or a special other or whatever, but that's never really going to happen. And what happens if they disappear, if they die, if they don't come into, I don't know, they don't like you anymore, whatever, then that means that our world is shattered and we are stuck in there forever. That's not an option. That is not an option. You know, everything that we experience outside of ourselves is just somehow like a theater. It's like a projection of what's happening inside. It's mirroring and projection. It's like, okay, there's all this thing going on. And I know it can sound very self-centered. And it is in a sense, but we are all these self-centered. We all have this inner world that's very rich. And we have this inner dynamics between sides of ourselves. And what we experience outside of ourselves, it's like always mirrors of that. If I believe I'm not good enough, that can be mirrored back at me. And that's not to be mean. That's because we need to find out. We need to see, okay, I need to question myself here. I need to question my mind. I need to come back into my body. That's the tool. When I'm too much in my mind, my body is the direction. When I'm too much in my body, I may need to engage my mind a little bit. You know, bringing it all into balance. Like these two are here, balancing each other up with the colors, with the hands, with the... And there is a choice involved in here. This card usually comes with that guidance that don't just settle for anything, that for the first thing that comes into your mind or into your life. Make your choices and make them consciously, and know that you create your reality. And you can create it to be happy, but not in that fake positivity. Happiness does not mean, it's not that much happiness, it's more like that joy. That can include feeling sad and feeling worried and feeling angry and feeling all that. Joy and happiness does not mean that I'm not going to feel the humane feelings that we all feel. It's just about not getting stuck in there. And when I'm stuck in there, I know to take the steps, what to get me unstuck. How can I let myself go? If you have great people around you that can help you co-regulate and make use of that, ask for help whenever it's necessary. If you don't freak out. It's okay. You can you know the steps. Sometimes people can be helpful. Sometimes people can prive, those lovely rescuers can prive us of our learning our own lessons. And eventually you're going to have to. So you're doing great here, actually, Leo. Now, let's see, what's the wisdom of the heart from Rumi Oracle cards? Passion for purpose. I see a lot of like root chakra energy here with all this red, and this looks like a vagina to me. It's number 2. Let's see. Gosh, it's almost an hour. I can't believe it. I think it's the longest reading ever. Okay, the poem from Rumi says, "Love, like life, flows through the heart. Feel the thrill of the flow and say nothing." Okay. It's a really long read, so I'm just going to cut it short and go to the guidance. So this oracle comes to you with guidance. You are being initiated more deeply into your life purpose. Your passion will reveal itself to you with more depth, nuance, and beauty than ever before. If parts of your life are disassembling or do not seem to be working out as you had planned, these are symptoms of this passionate revelation. Be curious and open to what presents itself in the wake of the falling away. Be ready for the journey within now. You are strong enough to leave behind the need for external validation, whilst you learn to validate yourself. Oh wow, we were just talking about that. In time, soon enough, in fact, you shall reveal your innermost beauty and be witnessed and received, acknowledged for your innate value, purpose, and divinity. But for now, sweet beloved, dive deep, be defiant and determined to honor your heart so your deep passion may be witnessed by you and eventually, naturally, make its way into sacred expression in the world. If you have recently discovered new talent or purpose, or have been dreaming some big dreams, this oracle comes to you with guidance and confirmation. You are excited? Follow that excitement. Let it lead you into your heart, truth, and onto ever more passionate path of purpose-filled living. All right, my darling. Well, have a lovely March. Be gentle with yourself. Don't put yourself down. That's very important. When we put ourselves down, we put others down as well. So just honor whatever comes to you. Be nurturing and allow the passion and the kindness of the strength to flow through you. That's your element. That's your card. You're great at this. Have a lovely March, and if you resonate with this reading, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you here soon. May our practice benefit all beings.